Few good words here. So one word is, I've got a list here: put off, delay, and postpone. The meanings of these cross over a lot. They're quite similar. It's when you don't want to do something now, so you will do it later instead. When you were in school, for example, or maybe you're still in school, do you do your homework instantly, or do you procrastinate and put off your homework until the last minute? I was usually the kind of kid who did it right away, because I really valued having that free time and not worrying about my homework. So I did it very, very soon after receiving it. I think that worked well for me. What else have I procrastinated on? I think there's some cleaning I need to do in the bathroom that maybe I've kind of delayed a little bit. I'll do it later, it's not a big deal, stuff like that. But usually I'm not too bad. But let me know what you guys have trouble with procrastination. What do you procrastinate with? So maybe I'll come back to some tips on how to avoid procrastination towards the end of this episode. But I found a good picture online from another podcast, actually. I'm kind of stealing their ideas on why people procrastinate. There's a few different reasons as to why we might procrastinate, as to why we might put things off until later. One of these was called skill deficiency. Deficient is an adjective, deficiency is the noun. This just means we're not good enough at something. So when I'm talking about this today, try to relate it to your English studies and see if anything rings a bell for you, if anything sounds familiar to you. That's what that means, rings a bell. So if you are deficient in something, you're not good enough at something. And often, when there's something we find very difficult, we tend to procrastinate and we do it later. So I think that's why many people will procrastinate, packing their bags for holiday or unpacking after holiday. I, for one, love packing, so I do it as soon as I can. So it's not a problem for me personally, but something that I'm not very good at, for example, is, well, I'll give you one example. So last year I did my CELTA, which is a teacher training course from Cambridge, and some parts of that I found very, very difficult. Most of it wasn't too bad, to be honest, but a couple things in particular I found quite challenging, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it, which means I couldn't comprehend, understand what they wanted me to do. Mostly it was like the long writing essays I had to do. And I found I had a tendency to procrastinate. And it wasn't because I was lazy, it was just because I wasn't good enough. I didn't feel like I was good at it. I was deficient in skill. And subconsciously, without realizing, I decided, I'll do it later. That's future Michael's problem. I won't do it now. So does that sound familiar to any of you? I think that's a common one. And maybe I can talk about some solutions to these as I go through them. So I'm not really an expert. I haven't even prepared for the solutions, but I'll just give you my on-the-spot ideas. So if you have a deficiency in some kind of skill, you're not good enough at something, I think it's probably a good idea to find a way to make yourself good at it. So if it's something you're finding difficult, you can ask people for help. That's an easy solution, right? You can just approach it from a different angle and find another way to accomplish that task, right? If it's your English studies and you're procrastinating because you're not good at English, first of all, have that mindset that, of course, you're not going to be good if you never study. You need to study to be good. So there's a kind of a paradox here that you need to get past. But also maybe think about a way to change your approach to English studies. If there's something that's really difficult, maybe you're making it too hard. Maybe make it easier. Go a step down. Change your study methods. Something like that. So that's one possible solution for procrastinating. Another reason why people may procrastinate is when there are external distractions. So things in our environment that just seem much more interesting or blocking us from doing what we want to do for some reason. For example, I would love to record some podcasts today and do some other work for my membership, but I'm just thinking about my video games. I really want to play that game. I really got to kill that boss and complete that mission. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'll do my work later. I'll be right back, guys. Obviously, just kidding. I could say that. I could, though. I could just go and do it, right? But how do I avoid doing that? Yeah, I guess think about what obstacles you have in your life. What distractions do you have? So try to minimize distractions. Try to make what you're doing fun, first of all. But I guess also try to schedule in those distractions for another time. So rather than saying, no video games, be a bit more positive about what you do and say, yes, video games, after this specific time. So it's not really restricting yourself, it's giving you that time to do these distractions at another point in the day. But also we can reduce them, right? So if my phone is not in my hand, it's not going to cause me to procrastinate because it's just not a possibility, right? I think one of the most interesting ways in which procrastination comes up is what we call self-sabotage. To sabotage something means to ruin something, to make something go wrong and break. Self-sabotage is when we make ourselves fail for some reason, and it's a really interesting psychological thing that happens. I will give you one example from when I first started teaching English online, and I had a very strange, idea about how to do that. So I spent ages, hours and hours, planning my lessons. I made lots of PowerPoints and Word documents. I was planning many lessons. And this was before I even had a student. But I was saying to myself, no, I'm not ready. I need to make more lesson plans, because what if I get a student who books 10 lessons and I don't have any lessons for them? What am I going to do? So I was planning. I think I had like 15 lesson plans. And I said, no, it's still not enough. I need more lesson plans. And this is a obvious example of procrastination. And the reason I was doing it, I realize now in hindsight, which means looking back on the past, in hindsight, it was a form of self-sabotage. I didn't feel like I was ready. I was scared to start. Because if you never start, you never fail, right? That's how we see it in our minds anyway. If you don't try something, it's impossible to fail at that thing. And doing something new, like starting a business or teaching a class, it's a risk because it has a chance of failing, and that's really scary. And we may feel like we're not good enough, so we self-sabotage by saying, I'm not ready, I'll do it later, or something like that. My friend has an interesting one where, I hope he doesn't mind, but he tried to do yoga before. And he said to me, I can't do yoga, I'm not flexible enough to do yoga, I just can't do it. But what I think he didn't quite understand is that yoga is not for flexible people. Flexible people happen because of yoga. Now, yoga makes you flexible, right? So he was kind of self-sabotaging by saying he's not good enough, when really, in order to be flexible, he needed to practice more. So it's kind of, you can relate it to language learning, right? I'm not good enough at English, therefore I can't join a lesson. But how are you going to get good if you don't join a lesson? So don't use your lack of knowledge, your fear of failure, as an excuse to procrastinate, to put things off. You need to realise that you do deserve to succeed. You know, you can succeed, you can improve, you just need to believe in yourself and push yourself beyond that procrastination. I hope that is inspiring for you, because it certainly helps me. The final one I want to mention here is what they have called addictive escapism. Escapism is the concept of trying to do something else because it's just more enjoyable. And we do this a lot with technology, right? Whenever we have a moment of boredom, I meant to say a moment of boredom in our lives, we get out our phones and we do stuff on our phones. We try to make the moment more fun. You know, when you're queuing in the cafe, you look at your phone. And this is kind of a form of escapism, to escape the boredom of the present moment. And I think it's a skill that you have to continuously keep practicing to be present and enjoy the moment. I could be thinking now about, I'd really rather be making dinner. I'd rather be playing on Instagram.